First, let's start with this case. Look, I love my niece. She's a sweet little girl, and it's not her fault her mother is a train wreck. But I am not a free babysitter, and I am definitely not a parent. My sister is one of those people who thinks the world owes her something. She had my niece when she was barely an adult, and ever since, she's treated everyone around her like free childcare. She refuses to get a stable job and just hops from one loser boyfriend to another, expecting family to pick up the slack. Since I have a steady income and no kids, she's always been trying to dump her daughter on me. It started small, asking me to watch her for just an hour while she ran errands, which turned into her disappearing for the whole day. Then it became weekends. I put my foot down and told her I wasn't available to babysit for free, especially not last minute. She threw a fit, called me selfish, but I stuck to my boundaries. That brings us to last week. I was home, finally enjoying a quiet Friday night after a long week at work, when my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and saw my niece standing there, clutching a little backpack. Before I could even open the door, I heard a car speeding off. I opened the door. "Where's your mom?" She said she had to go and I should stay with you. I tried calling my sister immediately, straight to voicemail. Then I texted her, no response. 5 minutes later, my messages weren't even going through anymore. She had blocked me. At that point, I had no idea when or if she was coming back. I could have given in, let her get away with it like she always did, but I was done. So I called the police. They came quickly, and after explaining the situation, they agreed this was child abandonment. They tried contacting my sister. No luck. My niece was calm at first, but when she realized she wouldn't be going home, she started crying. I felt horrible, but I knew this wasn't my fault. The police had no choice but to call Child Protective Services. It turns out, this wasn't the first time my sister had done this. There were already reports of her leaving my niece with random people for days at a time. CPS took her in for the night, and I gave them the contact information for our aunt, who is much more responsible and has always wanted custody of my niece. My sister finally called me the next day, screaming, "What the hell did you do? You abandoned your kid on my doorstep and blocked me. What did you expect me to do? You could have just kept her for the night. That's not my job. I'm not her parent. You ruined my life. No, you did that all on your own." She lost custody. The investigation revealed she had been neglecting my niece in other ways too. Missing doctor's appointments, not providing stable housing, dumping her on random people whenever it was inconvenient. Our aunt has full custody now, and my niece is actually happy and safe. My sister, on the other hand, is still crying about it online, painting herself as a victim and saying I betrayed her. Some of our extended family thinks I went too far, and that I should have just taken my niece in for the night instead of getting authorities involved. But I don't regret it. My niece deserved better. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. You did the right thing. Your sister is an unfit parent who literally abandoned her child. Calling the police was the best option. You couldn't have known if she'd ever come back. You're not in the wrong. Your niece is better off with your aunt. Imagine if you had just let this slide. Your sister would have kept doing it, and eventually, something much worse could have happened to your niece. You're not in the wrong. Your sister blocked your number after dumping her child on you. What were you supposed to do? Just hope she came back eventually? She brought this on herself. Next up, I've known my childhood best friend for over 20 years. We grew up together, went through every phase of life side by side, and I always thought we'd be there for each other no matter what. So when she got engaged and asked me to be her maid of honor, I was over the moon. From the start, she and her fiancé were struggling financially. They wanted a dream wedding but didn't have the budget for it. She asked if I could help cover some of the costs, promising she'd pay me back eventually. I agreed because I loved her like a sister and genuinely wanted her to have her special day. I ended up covering the deposit for her $3,500 wedding dress, the venue down payments, part of the catering bill, $2,500. I wasn't rich by any means, but I was doing well enough to help, and I thought I was contributing to something meaningful. She kept thanking me profusely, saying she didn't know what she'd do without me. Then, a month before the wedding, I got a text. "Hey, I wanted to talk to you about something important." What's up? So fiancé and I have been thinking, we want a more upscale crowd at the wedding. We're trying to curate a certain vibe, And we feel like you don't really fit that image. We hope you understand, but we're uninviting you from the wedding. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Wait, what? Are you joking? You're seriously telling me I'm not classy enough to attend the wedding I helped pay for? It's not personal. We just have a vision for the day, and we don't think you match the aesthetic. I didn't respond after that. I was furious, but instead of arguing, I got to work. Since everything I paid for was under my name, I started canceling. The venue? Canceled. They hadn't paid the remaining balance, so the reservation was void. The catering? Canceled. They hadn't met the final payment deadline, so it was gone. The dress deposit? Poof. She'd have to pay the rest herself to get the dress. A week later, I got a panicked call from her. What the hell did you do? I canceled everything I paid for. Why would I fund a wedding I'm not even allowed to attend? Her, are you serious? We can't afford all this last minute. The wedding is in 3 weeks. Not my problem. She started crying, calling me a horrible friend, and saying I was ruining her big day. I told her she should have thought about that before treating me like I was disposable. Word spread fast among our mutual friends. Some thought I went too far, but most were on my side. Since she and her fiancé couldn't afford another venue on such short notice, they ended up having their upscale wedding in a community center gymnasium with basic catering and folding chairs. The best part? Her husband found out what she did, about how she uninvited me after taking my money, and he was pissed. He had no idea she'd pulled that stunt, and apparently it was one of many red flags he had ignored. They divorced less than a year later. Now, she's still bitter, still blaming me for ruining her wedding, but I feel no guilt. If I wasn't good enough for her fancy wedding, my money wasn't good enough either. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. She took your money and discarded you like trash. You didn't ruin her wedding. Her entitlement did. You're not in the wrong. She literally stole from you, then acted shocked when you took your money back. Actions have consequences. You're not in the wrong. She played stupid games and won stupid prizes. If she had any class at all, she'd have at least repaid you before kicking you out of her wedding. Everyone sucks. She's obviously awful, but you could have at least warned her before canceling everything. I get why you did it, but I still think it was a little harsh. Next up, I had a roommate who was the absolute worst. He was lazy, never cleaned up after himself, and worst of all, he never bought groceries. Not once. But that didn't stop him from eating everything I bought within days. At first, I tried being reasonable. Dude, you need to start buying your own groceries. It's not fair that I pay for everything and you eat it all. Come on. You make more money than me. You should share. That was his excuse every time. He felt entitled to my food just because I had a better-paying job. It didn't matter if I just got back from grocery shopping. By the next day, all the good stuff was gone. One day, I bought a pack of chicken, a carton of eggs, and some expensive snacks I had been looking forward to. The next morning, all gone. I was done. I decided to install a hidden camera in the kitchen to catch him in the act. I just wanted proof to finally make him pay up, or at least stop eating my food. What I saw shocked me. Not only was he eating my groceries, he was selling them. He had a whole side hustle running out of our kitchen, knocking on neighbors' doors and selling them my snacks, my frozen meals, my drinks, everything. I was livid. That same night I confronted him. Care to explain why you're selling my groceries to the neighbors? So what, you can afford more. That's not the point. You've literally been stealing from me and making a profit off my groceries. That's when he got defensive. You better drop this or I'll tell the landlord you're illegally subletting. Now, I wasn't actually illegally subletting, but I knew he had the kind of personality that could make my life hell if he decided to start lying to the landlord. Too bad for him, I was already 3 steps ahead. Before he even had the chance, I sent the security footage to the landlord myself, with a detailed explanation of what had been happening. The response was instant. The landlord kicked him out immediately. Not only that, but he was forced to pay back the cost of all the groceries he had stolen over the past few months. Now, he's couch surfing with his broke friends, begging for a place to stay. Meanwhile, I'm enjoying a fully stocked fridge for the first time in ages. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. This isn't just a case of a lazy roommate mooching off you. This guy was literally running a scam with your groceries. He wasn't just eating your food because he was struggling financially or had poor habits, he was stealing and profiting off of it. And then, instead of apologizing or making it right, he tried to blackmail you? Yeah, no. He got exactly what he deserved. If anything, you were more patient than most people would have been. You're not in the wrong. Imagine stealing from someone, profiting off their food, and then threatening them when caught. Absolute clown behavior. You're not in the wrong. You gave him multiple chances to be a decent person. He chose to be a thief. Actions have consequences. Next up, my dad walked out on me and my mom when I was a kid. One day he was a loving father, or so I thought, and the next he was gone, off to start a new life with his mistress. He barely paid child support. When he did, it was always late and never enough. Meanwhile, I grew up watching from a distance as his new family lived in luxury. His new kids got everything: private school, expensive vacations, brand new cars for their birthdays. Meanwhile, my mom and I struggled. She worked 2 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. I started working as soon as I was old enough, putting myself through school without a single penny from him. By the time I built a successful career, I had 0 attachment to him. He was nothing more than a guy I used to know. I never looked back. But karma came knocking. His perfect family abandoned him. His wife left. His kids wanted nothing to do with him. And now, he had huge medical bills and no one to turn to. That's when he suddenly remembered I existed. He called me out of nowhere, acting like we had some kind of deep bond. "Hey kiddo, it's been a while." "Yeah, about 2 decades. He tried to butter me up, talking about how proud he was of me, how he always knew I'd be successful. Then came the real reason for the call. I hate to ask, but I'm in a tough spot. Medical bills are piling up, and I just need a little help. You know, family takes care of each other. I almost laughed. Family, huh? You made it pretty clear which family mattered to you. That's not fair. I know I made mistakes, but I'm still your father. We're blood. Me. You didn't care about that when you left us struggling while spoiling your other kids. Why should I care now? He kept trying. He played the victim. He talked about how his wife left him, how his kids cut him off, how he was all alone. I thought you were better than this. Holding on to anger isn't healthy. You're successful. You can afford to help. Me, and you could afford to pay child support, but you didn't. You could afford private school and vacations, but not for me. You made your choices. Now live with them. That was the last conversation we had. Now he's drowning in debt, struggling to get by, while I live comfortably. I don't feel bad. I don't feel anything at all. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. He wasn't a father to you. He was just some guy who happened to share DNA with you. Now that his other family ditched him, he expects you to pick up the pieces? That's not how it works. Actions have consequences, and he's facing his. You're not in the wrong. It's funny how family is everything only matters to people like him when they need something. Where was that energy when you and your mom were struggling? He made his bed and now he has to lie in it. You're not in the wrong. He abandoned you, neglected you, and now expects you to be his retirement plan? Absolutely not. He didn't invest in you as a parent, so he doesn't get the benefits of having a successful adult child. Stay firm.